everyone, welcome back to my channel Bobolian Gaming, and for this video I will be talking about the latest and one of the trending games, which is Genshin Impact. In mapping for Genshin Impact, the map area is still quite small, probably because it's still a new game and an online game. Where I heard that in the next upcoming update, they will widen up the map and have more places to discover. And this map is from the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I finished discovering the whole map and it is quite a huge map and area to discover and more places to go. So I hope that in future that the Genshin Impact will have the same thing, more or less like the Breath of the Wild mapping area. As you can see, the most obvious similarity we can see from Genshin Impact compared to the Breath of the Wild is that running, climbing and gliding requires stamina, and it depletes the stamina of the character itself. In combat style for Genshin Impact is also quite similar to the combat style in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And did you notice that the enemy is almost quite similar looking as well? The advantage that you have going up against enemy when you're playing Genshin Impact is that you can switch your characters and use a different type of elemental skills to bring more damage to the enemy. While playing as Link in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a one-man show where he did most of the fighting. Another spot-on similarity from the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and comparing to Genshin Impact is that to increase your stamina you need to offer something to the statue. As for Link, you need to offer the Spirit Orbs, and for Genshin Impact you need to offer Geoculus or Animalculus to the Statue of the Seven. Comparing Genshin Impact similarities to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, there are also differences between these two games. In terms of weaponry in Genshin Impact, you need to upgrade and ascend your weapon accordingly for your weapon to have more damage when dealing with enemies. And to do that, you have to have a certain artifact, especially when ascending the weapon to another level. Weaponry in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, there is no upgrade needed for the weapons, but it has a downside to it that your weapon will break when used in certain amount of times. If you use the weapon too frequently, at one point it will break. So that's one of the downsides for the weapons in The Legend of Zelda. These are also one of the differences between these two games. In Genshin Impact, you have these domains where you can get your artifact by defeating the enemy inside according to the level you choose. But for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you don't really have these kind of things, which gives us the impression that this Genshin Impact gives the player more playing experience compared to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So to conclude this video, in comparing between these two games, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Genshin Impact, I think that Genshin Impact is quite similar and too similar, so I can say it is a bit of a rip-off from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Even though Genshin Impact is a rip-off game, but I give it a credit because it's an online game where you have a different type of experience comparing when you play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. You can play it in a different type of platforms, and also it's a newly developed game which can give more room for it to grow in the future.